I'd like to welcome everybody to the Lake Dallas Independent School District Board of Trustees meeting for June 17th, 2024. We have a quorum established. Mrs. Collier is not present. If everybody right now would please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Now I'd like to ask if you are able to please stand for the pledges of allegiance led by Mr. Eversole.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Have a noticeably different cadence than Carla does, so it throws me off. It's all good. All right, and I didn't fire up my thing here, so give me just a moment. Okay, our next item is our executive session. We'll be moving into that. Pursuant to one or more of the sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, Board of Trustees will reconvene an open session to take any final action, decision, or vote on a matter deliberated in closed session. It is 5:31. Okay, we are back in regular session. It is 7:17 p.m. Our next item is public comment, and I'm assuming we have nobody signed up for that, so we'll move on to our information items. We have one information item. It is development of the Lake Dallas ISD Police Department. We'll hear from Chad Springer. Good evening.
Good evening, Board, President Stacy, Dr. Brown, appreciate it. So we'll go through this presentation, kind of give you a high level of what it takes to start a police department in the state of Texas. And so, let's see. Let me get this thing turned on, maybe. All right, so we'll go through here. First part is the public benefit of the agency and the community. This just shows that we need to present to the state of Texas that we have a need within Lake Dallas ISD to create our own police department separate from the city or the county or the state. Part of that will we'll go into detail about what all needs to be done with that. Sustainable funding source, we have to be able to know that this isn't being funded by a grant, that it's sustainable year after year. It doesn't mean we can't use grant money to pay for things. It just has to be a sustainable source. The number 3 is the physical resources available to the officers. This is a rather long list, but we have to provide patrol vehicles, police vehicles for each officer, uniforms, ballistic vests, less than lethal equipment, so they have options, things of that nature. Items that we're going to have to provide for officers anyway, so it's nothing out of the ordinary. Next one would be the physical facilities of the agency. This is just how the department is set up. Obviously, the main agency address will be at the administration building here. Each SRO or each officer's office at the campus will kind of like be a satellite. So whenever T-Cole comes up here and does their inspections, they're going to be coming up here to admin and looking at the office here and the evidence room and things of that nature. Policies for the agency. This one's a little bit different. There's about 15, 16, 17 policies that have to be put into play in order to get TCO to approve. Our recommendation is using a policy and training company to provide these resources, reduces the liability on the school district, on the agency, having those things in place, and it provides the training that's needed for the officers to ensure that they're following policies, they understand the policies, and they're available. Number 6 is establishing the administrative structure. That's basically just telling TCO that the school board is at the very top, followed by the superintendent, the police chief, and down through the ranks. Very simple. Liability insurance, the agency has to be listed on the school district's insurance, as well as each vehicle, separate from what other cars are covered. Like if there's a pool policy for school buses and other vehicles, this has to be a separate coverage for police vehicles that's listed at the bottom of the insurance policy. School district resolutions, y'all already passed that school district resolution, and so that has to be included, as well as the minutes that y'all will look at tonight to approve the minutes of the last board meeting where the resolution was approved. Those are the main items that's required. That once we get all this turned in, get the packet together, we'll submit it to the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. They will come here and they will do a thorough inspection of everything that we have. It'll go back for review from the executive director of TCOL, and at that point, they will approve or deny the application for a police department. And that's the beginning. From that point forward, once the department is approved, we have to go through Texas DPS and FBI to get additional documents. An ORI number is what you use to file cases and things of that nature, keeping up with your offense reports. And the National Incident-Based Reporting System, that has to be set up so we can do our monthly reports with them. That's required. So once this gets approved, then there's a few more steps past that point that can take anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks for that to be done as well. So what have we been doing? We've been getting a lot of quotes. I've been looking at a lot of different things, a lot of cars, a lot of equipment, a lot of uniforms, radios. Radios are very difficult to get right now. A lot of those are 18 to 22 week lead times. So the earlier they're ordered, the quicker they'll be here, obviously. Vehicles are another hard to get item right now, so looking over at those. And then branding. We've badges, patches, graphics for the cars. Still kind of going through the badge thing. I want something that's a little different than what the norm is, just so it kind of stands out, and when people see it, they think like Dallas ISD, just for for school pride and something that's going to be a little bit different than what others you see in general. Here's what the patch design looks like right now. And keeps with your, it's still pretty simple, but brings in the school colors. This design is the car. We're very used to seeing black and white cars here. Usually it's very straight lines right down the doors. I wanted something a little bit different. This is a door wrap. The rest of the car is black. There's a door wrap that fades from black through gray all the way to white. And then the police and Lake Dallas ISD are outlined in green to bring in the school colors. The front would have the patch on it. And the only thing that's wrapped are the two doors, so at the end of use for the car, the wrap can be removed and the car can be utilized in any other function that it's needed. So there's a lot less damage to the car from removing just stickers sometimes. And the back is very simple. I didn't want it to be over the top. I wanted it to be very professional and simple looking. And so that's kind of where I've kept it at, right there. And so that is the information that I have. Do you have any questions?
Any questions from the board? No, I do have a question first. Badges? You don't have any?
I don't have the pictures of the badges yet. I'm still in the works on those.
Okay, you're off the hook.
I have like 3 or 4 different designs that I'm kind of torn behind.
You've piqued all of our interests,
Yeah.
so especially mine.
Yeah.
Probably Bruce, maybe Scotty, but yeah, we're looking forward to that. Dr. Brown, you had a question?
I had more of a statement, and Mr. Springer, if you want to offer some clarification. In terms of the vehicles, the lapse time could be as long as 6 to 8 months in some cases, correct? Depending on what's available. And so one of the considerations before the board is to this evening purchase vehicles to pre-plan with the intent of getting them as soon as possible, even though we don't have a designated timeline for the actual start date of the police department, knowing that we could go an entire school year without vehicles available. The recommendation to the board this evening is to purchase 5 additional vehicles that would eventually outfit each one of our campuses as needed. And so just wanted to kind of share that and see if you all had any questions about the possible vehicle purchase later in the budget.
So just for clarification, that would be 6 total vehicles.
Yes, we've
Yes.
purchased one
Okay.
already.
Oh, one for but
One
okay.
has been purchased, essentially what would become Mr. Springer as he becomes Chief Springer. That vehicle has already been purchased. It is under 75,000, so it's under the authority for me to approve that purchase. But additional purchases of vehicles would go above a $75,000 purchase. So what we would be asking is the board to allow us to place the order for 5. So it would be a total of 6, 1 for future Chief Springer, and the 5 for the officers, 1 for each campus.
Clear. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Nope. Okay. Move on to our next items, which are the consent agenda items. Yes, ma'am. Looking over it just to be sure what I'm seeing all on here. Is there any questions or comments regarding the consent agenda? Would those 5 vehicles that we just spoke about, would that be part of the consent, or that would be a?
It would be on 6M, considerations of approval of purchases
6M.
over $75,000.
Okay, do we need to remove that item and consider it separately, or just?
No, sir, you may
Okay.
consider it because it's a purchase over $75,000.
As part of the consent? Okay, but we do need to make mention of that, correct? No, it's consent, though. It's under consent. Okay, do I have any other questions or comments on consent? No questions or comments? Well, in that case, I will entertain a motion on consent. Motion to approve by Mr. Tucker. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Smith. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of approval, please indicate. And that passes 6 in favor of, nobody against, 0 against. All right, our next items are action items, the first of which is consideration approval of the MOU concerning communication and coordination between Lake Dallas ISD Police Department and the Corinth Police Department. Mr. Springer.
Hello again. So these the first 3 items that you're seeing here, 7A, 7B, and 7C are all essentially the same as far as wording goes. They are entering into basically it's a mutual aid agreement with the police departments that our district is in. And basically it's an information sharing. They'll help us, we'll help them, that type of stuff. It enters towards that police department, not really the city, because it's more of a mutual aid. And so that's why you don't see one with Shady Shores, because Corinth PD covers Shady Shores. So we're entering into a mutual aid agreement essentially with those police departments. Any questions on those 3?
Any questions or comments from the board?
I have one question.
Mr. Baird.
Even though we don't have campuses in Denton, part of the city of, part of Denton ISD takes up part of Corinth. There's anything required there, any consideration?
No, there's not, since we're not working directly with Denton ISD or any police department.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Appleby. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of approval, please indicate. And that passes 6 in favor of, 0 against. And move to 7B, which is consideration approval of the MOU concerning communication and coordination with Lake Dallas ISD Police Department and the Hickory Creek Police Department. Mr. Springer.
And is the same as 7B or 7A. This is with the Hickory Creek Police Department, mutual aid agreement.
Is there any questions or comments on this? I think the main thing on this is we don't have a campus in Hickory Creek, but we do have bus routes in Hickory Creek.
We do, and we
Quite
have students that
extensively.
live there, and so it's just you know, if they get information about our students or if we get information that's happening in their city, we share it.
Sure. All right. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
Make a motion that we approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Baird. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Tucker. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of approval, please indicate. And that passes 6 in favor of and 0 against. Our next item is, make sure I'm on the right one here. Consideration approval of the MOU concerning communication and coordination between Lake Dallas ISD Police Department and the Lake Dallas Police Department. Mr. Springer.
And this is the mutual aid agreement with Lake Dallas PD. So we'll be sharing information back and forth with them.
Or the same thing, huh?
Same thing.
That's right. Okay. Any questions or comments? All right. I'll entertain a motion. Motion to approve by Mr. Appleby. Do I have a second? A second by Mr. Smith. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of approval, please indicate. And that passes 6 in favor, 0 against. And 7D, are consideration approval of the interlocal cooperation agreement, shared governance, communication, and dispatch services system between Lake Dallas ISD Police Department and Denton County. Mr. Springer.
Okay, now this one is a little bit different. This one is an actual non-terminal agreement between Lake Dallas ISD, the police department, and Denton County Sheriff's Department, and dispatch services. So they will provide us with communication services. They will also provide us with non-terminal use of the National Crime Reporting System, where we will be able to run people, check for warrants, check for driver's license, things of that nature. But they also provide us with the CAD system, computer-aided dispatch, and the records management or report writing system. That is at no cost to us. So that's a pretty good thing the Sheriff's Department does.
We call that a bargain.
Yes,
Most agencies have to pay for that.
correct.
I can assure you. Any questions or comments? If not, I will entertain a motion on this item. Motion to approve by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Baird. Is there any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor, please indicate. And that passes 6 in favor of and 0 against. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Our next item is consideration approval of the 2024-2025 district pay increase. Mr. Eversole.
There we go. Thank you, President Stacy, members of the board, Dr. Brown. Okay, so this evening we're going to consider and review the district compensation plan. We're going to kind of give you a budget update before we get to that final portion of the presentation, but that's what we're going to review this evening. So here's the budget calendar that we've been looking at since May. So we had a budget workshop a couple weeks ago. Tonight we'll be giving you another budget update. We're going to give you a first look at function level budgets, non-payroll budgets. We'll give you an estimation, an estimation of payroll. We'll be reviewing some campus and department budgets as well. And then our next meeting is scheduled July 22nd. We'll give you further budget updates. You know, we still have several weeks left before August 26th, and so we'll be refining our budget through August 26th, or certainly through August 12th. We have to give you a final budget on August 12th, and so we still have some work left. But again, we'll be giving you a budget update on the 22nd, which will include the food service fund and debt service fund as well. We'll go into a little deeper discussion concerning our property values. The Denton Central Appraisal District is scheduled to certify our tax values on the 25th, so we should give you something pretty close to the certified values on the 22nd. And then again, we'll be reviewing final budgets on August 12th, and then we'd like to come back 2 weeks later on August 26th for our hearing, our public hearing, which is required by law, and then ask the board to approve and adopt the budget at that time, and then also approve and adopt a tax rate. So that's our schedule going forward. Just to kind of rehash some things that we talk about each and every budget cycle, the state funding follows the students, and so we're paid by the number of kids. We're funded by the number of students that walk in the front door each and every day, and that's the Foundation School Program. And it's based on district characteristics, student characteristics, the needs of our students, the number of students in attendance, and so that's the number of kids that walk in the front door each and every day. There's also a component that's based on the enrollment, and then there's also a component that is based on full-time equivalent students, primarily career and tech is the primary funding mechanism behind the FTE count. And so key points on the Texas school finance system. The revenue per student is determined by state funding formulas, and the basis of our funding formula is called the basic allotment. That basic allotment is $61.60 per student, and then it's weighted. There's funded that's weighted beyond that, but that's the basic level, $61.60. That level has not changed since 2019, and so we're going into another session here in January. We'll see what's in store for us and the legislature coming up this next session, but our funding level from the basic allotment has not changed since 2019. TEA does calculate our compressed tax rate, and so that changed many years ago, and so once we get the final certified values, there's some information that we submit to TEA, and TEA will generate and calculate your local tax rate. And again, we've talked about this many times, but the higher property values do not mean more overall general revenue. So as tax revenue increases, state funds decreases, and so it's an equalized system. Our tax rate has decreased. Back in 17-18, we were at $1.67. Our current tax rate's $1.26. That's 41-cent decrease. That's almost a 25% decrease since 17-18. Again, the state calculates that, but that is certainly a decrease to our taxpayers as far as the tax rate goes. And then other school finance points. Our district budget is largely tied to staff, and so we're the largest employer in the Lake Cities. We employ close to 600 employees, and that's the major component of our budget. 85% of our budget is tied to staffing. District budget is restricted by state and rules and regulations, so we do have a lot of rules we have to follow. Inflation, we feel certainly inflation at home right now. We see, in our own pocketbooks, the district is no different. We're paying increased cost. $1 worth 18% less than 2019 when they increased the basic, or last time they changed the basic allotment. So we're absolutely feeling the cost of inflation, and that goes across the board throughout our budget. And then we have other mandates that we're funding. We just saw a discussion on a police force for the school district under HB 3. The state's funding roughly $100,000 for the armed security officers that's required continuously for each instructional minute at each campus. We see property insurance increases, which we'll talk about in a minute, utility increases, and then the overall inflation. So it's absolutely hitting our budget.
Excuse me, Wes, what is the cost right now on the armed security officer? Just so people understand, they're paying $100,000 out of 600 and...
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a second. Absolutely. So as far as the campus budget goes, our campus budgets are based on an allocation system, which is based on projected enrollment and student population and needs. And so the elementary campus allocation includes instructional supplies, reading and library supplies, counseling and testing supplies, routine equipment repairs, print shop, staff development, replacing some capital outlay items, postage, field trips, basically what it takes to run an elementary campus from an expenditure standpoint. And then the middle school includes everything that the elementaries pay for, but they have additional offerings: choir, drama, increased supply needs. They have more electives, certainly electives that they are managing. And coming up this year, they're going to have an additional career and tech electives. We've increased the offerings at the middle school concerning career and tech. And so that will cost them additional money to fund those programs, increased costs associated with UIL competitions. And then the high school allocation includes everything elementary and middle schools include, but they have additional career and tech expenditures or additional career and tech needs at the high school that even middle school doesn't have. They fund the cheerleaders, the high steppers. They fund the auditorium expenses, and so the lights that we replace and everything that we replace on stage does come out of a high school budget at some time. Increased cost associated with all our UL competitions, either athletic related or other co-curricular. Costs associated with additional electives, not only career and tech, but other career and tech electives. They have homecoming, graduations. There's a lot of events that the high school pays for on behalf of the district, but does come out of their budget as well. So campus expenditures that are not included in the campus budgets, salary and benefits, and so we budget that centrally. Athletic expenditures is budgeted by the athletic department. Custodial supplies, maintenance needs, all the facilities needs at the campus level are in our facilities and maintenance budget. Food service has their own budget. Telephone IT needs is budgeted separately outside their budget. We have a copier contract that's built outside their budget. Band is also has a separate budget as well. So these are our campus budget allocations, and these numbers haven't changed in years. And so you can see the base allocation for each one of the campuses. It just gets to be a little more expensive the older our students get and the bigger our campuses get. And so there are additional allocations for special populations. So we estimate, or part of their allocation system is a number of special needs kids that they service at each one of the campus, bilingual SL, the number of economically disadvantaged students at each one of the campus, the number of GT or gifted and talented, and then career and tech is also part of that additional allocation. And so so you can see here, this lists the allocation for the 23-24 school year and the 24-25 school year. They haven't dramatically changed. There's a $10,000 difference when you sum it up. You can see the middle school, we've increased their budget allocation by $14,000. That's primarily due to the career and tech expenditures that we'll incur this year because of the additional career and tech offerings. And then non-payroll expenditures, this is your first glance at the non-payroll expenditures, and so we're actually budgeting for less number of students this year than we had last year, and so our demographers report last year showed a little bit higher number than actually came to us for the first day of school, and so we're budgeting a little bit less as far as student population than we did this time last year. But the primary change in that first line of instruction, there's a piece of software, there was a software product that we use for American Sign Language, and that software will not be utilized next year, so we're seeing some savings there. That's the primary difference in instruction. And just kind of going over the larger changes, guidance and counseling services, there's some additional administrative software in their space. We are still working on this. This is your first look at our function level budget, and so we'll be reviewing this. This will change, but this is kind of where we are right now. Student transportation, we're seeing a slight increase. That's primarily due to repairs. We have enough in our budget for fuel costs. Fuel costs have not dramatically changed from last year, And so we feel like we have enough in fuel, but our bus fleet is getting older, and so we've had to increase our supply budget, repair budget. General administration, we're seeing some increases there. We're seeing some increase in legal costs, so that part of the administration budget. We're going to continue with the Falcon Insiders program. There's some awards and some recognitions, teacher recognition, Teacher of the Month recognitions, and so there's some costs associated with that. We also have some travel costs that's included that as well, and so there's an increase there. Plant maintenance and operation, we see a pretty dramatic increase, and that's tied to utilities. Our utility cost is increasing. Also tied to property insurance, so property insurance is increasing. We're estimating an additional $100,000 in additional property insurance cost. That's a component of many different things. We've been hit hard over the past 4 or 5 years as far as hail goes, and so we're in a very hail-prone area, and so that's to kind of pay for the cost of some of those claims. Our property values have increased. Our property values for insurance purposes around $308 million, and that's replacement cost. So if we have a claim, if we have a building that is a loss, it's replacement value. And so, but as building costs increase, so does insurance. And then it's a hard insurance market right now. We're feeling that at home as well as we see homeowners' properties increasing. So the district is no different as well. And then also, we are seeing some repair costs, some increase in repair costs just to maintain our facilities. Inflation is hitting this budget pretty heavy right now, and so the component of those three is the increase you see there. So the security and monitoring service, this is where the current SRO program is funded, and so the security budget includes our contracts, our agreements with the 2 cities for the 5 SROs. So as we go through and develop a budget for the police department, this budget will change depending on the timing. We may have some expenditures that will be incurred this year that don't necessarily affect next year. May have some one-time expenditures, and then and some of it will be timing thing. But this number will change. And so as it stands right now, we're looking at an $81,000 increase, and that would pay for the ultimate cost of next year for the 5 SROs at each one of the campuses. And so that's kind of where that is built into our budget. Data processing services remain the same. We have an awful lot of software packages and a very strong technology department right now, and so that is absolutely a focus of the district, and that's the budgets they are funded by. The other small budgets, the $14,000 is a good component as our local demographers report, which we'll be receiving in November. Payments fiscal agent is a regional school for the deaf. We code that a different area, and payment to fiscal agent, JJAP. And then the last component here is the appraisal district budget, and you'll see an increase of that budget. And to be honest with you, we're going to go back and look. I'm not sure if we've seen the final budget, and so we may have to change that a little bit as we continue the budget process. But we are at this time looking at a $44,000 increase to the Denton Central Appraisal District. They are increasing their budget, and there are things that they do need, and so that cost is passed on to us, and it's all based on how much we receive in taxes, and so that's their estimate right there. So we're looking at non-payroll expenditures as it stands right now, increasing about $587,000. We hope as we continue the budget process, we're able to refine that. I'm hoping to bring it down a little bit, but there are still some unknowns that we'll have to report back to you within the next meeting or two. And so just to kind of give you a feel for our reserves, this is just kind of a graph of where we are on our fund balance. Fund balance is used for cash management, so we just need to make sure that we've got cash in the bank when our, when we have to pay our bills. By far, our largest expenditure each and every month is payroll, so we need to make sure we have enough cash in the bank to meet our needs. Ongoing support for educational programs, and so that's another use of the fund balance. One-time expenditures is another use for fund balance, and we've talked about one of those this evening with the police cars. And so our current fund balance, or our fund balance as of 8/31/2024 was $13.6 million. The TEA's baseline of 25% annual expenditures is 10.4. So we've got some reserves that we can use. It's something we have to look at, especially in the days and times of limited increased funding from the state. And again, there's not a ton we can do outside what the funding formula is giving us. So as far as compensation, so we've talked about our revenue projections, and we'll come back next month with a little bit more accurate revenue projection as we get more information from the county or from DCAD. But we are looking at a revenue projection of a little over 41 million, a decrease of our budgeted revenue of the 23-24 school year, but we budgeted for more students last year than we anticipate this upcoming year. So we've decreased our student enrollment numbers, and that, for the most part, is the reason why we see a decrease. So we've estimated our payroll expenditures. I'm giving you a feel for the budgeted payroll for the 23-24 school year at $34.659 million. And we're presenting this evening two potential budget increases or payroll increases or compensation increases. One is 1%, and so this is our estimation right now what a 1% payroll cost would be. And so we're looking at a deficit at this time of $568 million, or $568,000. Sorry, I added 3 zeros there.
You're going to give me a stroke.
Didn't jive with my my little graph on the podium here. But $568,000 roughly would be the deficit. And then a 2% increase of $909,000. And so we hope that we can decrease this number as we go through the budget process, but that is our best guess. And so kind of give you a framework of what the employees would receive. A 1% pay raise represents a general pay increase for each teacher of $645. If you add the $1,000 retention bonus that the board has approved, I guess it was last meeting, that would be a $1,645 increase, and that represents a 2.69% increase over what they would make this year. And that's for a pay step 10 teacher that's currently making $61,215. So anybody that's making a little more than that will have a little bit less percentage increase because that $1,000 is fixed. Anybody that's making less than that would get a little bit more percentage increase because that fixed retention bonus or fixed retention stipend is $1,000. For that same teacher who's making $61,215 on pay step 10, a 2% general pay increase is $1,290 per year. Add $1,000 to that with the retention stipend that the board has already approved. That sums up to $2,290, so $2,290, which represents a 3.74% increase over where they were this last year. And so, to give you kind of a framework of what the board approved last year, the general pay increase was $1,900 per teacher last year. Now, there were some adjustments that were made because we went into the TASB system, but the general pay increase was $1,900 this year. So the two proposals we're reviewing tonight is an increase, if you include the stipend, of $22.90 at 2%, or if you increase or at 1%, if you increase the stipend of $1,645. And so, so whatever direction the board approves, this would include a general pay increase for the teachers, and then we'd also recommend that same increase of other staff members based on our midpoint system. And so that would be a percentage increase off midpoint. And so tonight, staff is recommending a 2% general increase for all staff members, but we'd be happy to, I'd happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir. Is there any questions from the board? I think we've heard a lot of this before, haven't we? All right. If there's no questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion. Option 2, the 2%. 2%. Okay. That's a motion to approve 2% by Mr. Appleby. Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Baird. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of approval, please indicate. And that passes 6 in favor of and 0 against. Thank you very much, sir. Our next item, which you were a part of, will be consideration approval of the guaranteed maximum price for Phase 2, Part 2B of the 2019 bond projects at the Lake Dallas High School.
Very good, Mr. Stacy, very good.
It's a mouthful.
It is. Okay, so just as a review, this is just kind of an overall view of the projects that we'll be undertaking the next couple years. Before I go any further, we've got Phil and Brian here from Crossland, representing Crossland, and Jennifer Workman here from VLK. So I'll make the presentations, but those really intense questions will go to the back row and they'll answer them too. So anyway, so this is just kind of an overall plan of what's going to be going on the next couple years. We've gone into depth about the different phases of this project, but you know, the big picture: we're renovating the fine arts wing. We're renovating the first floor of the 2-story facility at the high school, which will be new career and tech spaces. We're going to be adding a 25,000 square foot building, a new building that will house some other career and tech offerings. We're going to refurb the ag building, and that will be our EMT, fire, and law area. We're going to be adding a couple parking lots, one right behind the 3-story wing, and then another adjacent to the current parking lot in front of the field house. We're going to be pulling down the tennis courts, demoing the tennis courts that are in front of the high school that were part of the original '98 plan. And so we'll be taking those tennis courts down, and we'll be building tennis courts on the current practice soccer field, which is kind of between or just adjacent to the indoor practice facility and directly adjacent to the baseball field as well. And then we're going to be renovating a practice area for band up on the plan north of this. So just to kind of give you the schedule that we've gone through. So on February 26th, the board did approve Phase 2, Part 1, and that's the renovation of the band hall and choir. And so that is ongoing. I'm going to share with you a little information concerning where we are on that. And then we came back to you with Phase 2, Part 2A, and a GMP recommendation, which the board approved back in April. That was the tennis courts. We're going to be realigning the fire lane behind the high school, so we'll have a new entry point off Park Ridge. That also includes the practice area for band and the new parking lots I described. And then this evening, we've got the final GMP recommendation, And this includes the band hall addition. So this summer we're doing the renovation, and then we will start this fall the addition for additional space for band. And then we'll be renovating the back of the house, the green room, the scene shop. We'll be adding a classroom. Actually, we'll be adding a classroom this summer. And then and this also includes the career and tech classroom renovation inside the high school, the ag building renovations, and the new career and tech building, and new career and tech parking adjacent to the building. And so our construction schedule, we started the day after our students left, and they've been going very strong. We still feel like we're on schedule to finish that, before the students come back, sometime first part of August. So we feel like we'll complete the first phase, and for the most part complete the second phase 2A, which includes the band practice area, the new fire lane, and entry point onto Park Ridge, and we're hoping to complete the 2 parking lots that are behind the high school. The tennis court completion we're looking at somewhere probably in November, and so we've been working with Coach Gwynn and Coach Head, and they're aware of the schedule, and they feel like they can work around it. We're actually going to start demoing here real soon. We'll be removing 3 tennis courts pretty quickly, so we can start the groundwork and anything we need to do for the beginning of the new building that's going to be right next to the ag building. And then our plan as it stands right now is we'd like to complete the new career and tech building before school ends in May, so that we can move our teachers from the high school into the new career and tech building first part of June, and that way they wouldn't have to move twice. And then the completion of the final phase, which would include the renovation of the first floor of the high school career and tech, and then renovation on the back of the house, and theater. Our schedule is to complete that as of August of '25. So there's some pictures. These are probably a week old, and so every time you walk into their space, it looks completely new each and every day, or completely different each and every day. But these are just some pictures of the band hall and choir room. We've got a lot of CMU going up because there's a lot of sound walls that are being built with band and choir, and so these will all have acoustical treatment. But that's why we're going to see a whole bunch of CMU in this space. This is primarily for acoustical purposes. And then the bottom picture are windows that are looking out towards Park Ridge. So that's the old Fire Academy room. It used to be an old art room at one point in time. Then it's been the Fire Academy room since for 6 or 7 years. And so that's a picture that will become a new classroom as it stands. And then you've seen these before. There's a rendering of the new career and tech building at completion, and then another artist rendering of the back of the building. And so to the left, that's the back entrance from the high school. And so the green awning will come down at a point, and then we will make the look and feel. Our goal is the look and feel of this entry point in the back of the building, and the look and feel of the front of the career and tech building. We're trying to mimic the same look and feel that we have in front of the high school, so it looks a little more contiguous. And then that's just another rendering of the back of the building, an artist rendering, and then that's a rendering of what the band hall will look like, not this summer, but next summer. So we're bringing you tonight the final phase of GMP, and we're titling that Phase 2, Part 2B. And this is the biggest cost component of the 3 GMPs that we're bringing to you, and this is the final one. And so this came in at $26,672,000. And so we brought to you Phase 1, Part 1 at $3.496 million. And the board did approve that. We brought to the board Phase 2, Part 2A at $3.571 million. The board approved that, and this is the final phase. And so, we see the total construction cost right now of $33,740,143. Our next phase is to look at the fees associated with these costs outside our contract with Crossland, and then we're working on our FF&E budget as well. And so, but as it stands right now, we are absolutely in the vicinity of what was approved back in 19, the original budget in 19. And I'm happy to say that we're in the ballpark, because we've seen, you know, a lot of inflation since then, and so we don't feel like we're going to be much over or much under that, but we're absolutely in the ballpark of what was projected back then. So that being said, I'd be happy to answer any questions, or my esteemed colleagues would be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks, sir. Any questions or comments? I do have a question. During the demolition, have y'all found any issues with the building or anything that was hidden, just out of curiosity?
Nothing we couldn't get around,
Okay.
The only thing that they scratched their head about, if you remember, when we built the original High School 98, we had a concession stand that serviced what we call Old Main and what we call the Echo Dome. And so when we expanded that in '07, we took out that concession stand, so we built a new concession stand, and we raised that area, and that became a band practice storage facility. And so there was a little curveball on a Sunday afternoon that wasn't showing the as-builts, that they saw what's going on and worked around it. So no problem at all. But no, I don't think we really have seen anything out of the ordinary, you know.
I just always worry about something structural over the last 25, 30 years or whatever. But I know during construction that can be.
Well, there's a lot of
handled,
a lot of things we took the opportunity to take,
Sure.
you know, in the original 2019, and so, you know, some of the things that we needed to fix on that original phase, we absolutely did, and so
Yeah.
so far we haven't seen anything out of the
Good, good.
Right.
With that in mind, any other questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Motion to approve by Mr. Smith. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Tucker. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of approval, please indicate. And that passes 6 in favor of and 0 against. Thanks, sir. All right, our next item are our calendar announcements and information items, which are upcoming meetings and events. Dr. Brown, it's all yours.
Yes, sir. Just a reminder, the district is going to be closed the first 2 weeks of July. And so we did move our regular board meeting down to July 22nd to allow us time when we get back to make sure that gets posted properly.
Okay, I have that in my calendar properly. All right. It is 8:10 p.m. and open session of the meeting will adjourn. The Board of Trustees will reconvene an executive session pursuant to one or more of the sections of the Texas Open Meeting Act, Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. The Board of Trustees will reconvene an open session to take any final action, decision, or vote on a matter deliberated in executive session. We'll be talking about personnel matters. And again, it's 8:11 now. All right. Back on the air, Mike. We're back in regular session. It is 8:45 p.m. And I will consider a motion on the item discussed in executive session. So I have a motion from Mr. Bartley to waive section 5.1A on the superintendent's contract for the 2024-2025 school year. Make sure I get that right. Is there is there a second? A second by Mr. Appleby. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor of approval, please indicate. And that passes 6 in favor of and 0 against. And that concludes all of our business for the evening. It is 8:46 p.m. and we are adjourned.